It's time for the Daily Take. Ahead of that, the great Geraldo Rivera joins us. So President Trump's supposed to start in a few minutes. Geraldo, good to see you as well. As we wait for him to begin, we're talking to Jessica Yellen about this idea of shifting focus. That's the attempt today. Whether it's successful is another question, because a lot of the nation's conversation is still focused on immigration in Minnesota.
And I think it's the nation that is drawing the people's attention to the thing that they are feeling about and seeing it their very own eyes, the situation in Minnesota. It is horrible. 2 Americans dead, another shot and wounded, the city in chaos. You mentioned Stephen Miller. If he indeed, as suspected, is the architect of the hard-nosed, bring Bovino in, let's kick some butt, unleashing of Secretary Nome, then maybe his influence in the White House will be diminished, because it has ricocheted horribly against the president. He's borne the responsibility. People are deeply engaged in an issue they never really thought much about. They feel for the families. Now we have to go through the family mourning, the burial. And I think the city has been traumatized. And I think the nation, to a lesser extent, but still significantly, has also been very profoundly affected in a very hurtful way by what happened.
Well, it's one of those issues that moves beyond left-right to right-wrong when you talk about accuracy and what's true and what's not, and the way it was assessed in the moments and the hours afterwards. All this talk about domestic terrorism and all this kind of thing that was being talked about by officials. And then the president, he stopped at that restaurant in Iowa a few minutes ago before his speech, was asked about some of that. I want to play that clip. Here it is.
Well, I haven't heard that, but certainly he shouldn't have been carrying a gun. But hey, look, bottom line, everybody in this room, we view that as a very unfortunate incident. Okay? Everyone, unless you're a stupid person, very, very unfortunate incident. I don't like that he had a gun. I don't like that he had 2 fully loaded magazines. That's a lot of bad stuff. And despite that, I say that's a very unfortunate.
What do you think of that tone? The question, by the way, was, do you agree with the assessment from some of your officials that Alex Preddy is a domestic terrorist? The president started by saying, I haven't heard that. But what do you think of that tone?
Well, I think that he's in a very tough spot, the president. Nome was his protege. He backed her to rocket to the top, the head of this big, important agency, threw money at the agency after she took the job. And then, now has to deal with the consequences of that kind of rookie approach. I think that he's trying to balance, what is appropriate, how to be compassionate and be the president, the consoler-in-chief. On the other hand, still having some gnawing suspicions about the victim, about Preddy and the gun. Had to bring it up. I guess it has to be brought up and will be brought up in days to come, but he's in a very tough spot. These are the kinds of incidents where people really draw their connection, their own personal connection with the president. Is the president feeling, as I am feeling, sympathetic for the families of these poor people, including Preddy and Renee Good, who were slain on the streets of the city they loved? I think it's really going to be interesting to see if he could work his way out. I think Homan is a great move. Here you have someone who understands targeted law enforcement. Unlike the Bovino, the macho Bovino throwing his own stink bombs at the crowds. Homan, has had his own
comes across as
issues,
a tough guy, right, Geraldo? But he's
a tough guy,
right? But he doesn't necessarily he doesn't want it all to be out in public, does he? I mean, it doesn't seem like that's what he wants. He wants this to be targeted behind the scenes. That's what it seems to be what he's pushed for in the past, at least.
Unlike Bovino, he's not jumpy. You don't want to be in combat with somebody who's jumpy. And when they're jumpy, they make mistakes. When they're jumpy, they tend to overcompensate. Homan, even when he had his own issues with the media and was being interviewed by some very hostile reporters, he kept his cool. He knew what he knew. His loyalty to the president is unquestioned. His experience is unquestioned. And unlike Kristi Noem, I don't think he has a particular personal agenda. I think he's there to serve the president and, by extension, the American people. I think Kristi Noem has a very good chance of being impeached. I'd be surprised if there aren't. I think John Fetterman, the senator from Pennsylvania, is right.
Right.
These people, there's got to be a cost.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.